Welcome to our breakdown of episode 3 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters, everyone. Godzilla's big atomic bomb scene was revealed in this episode, so make sure and stay tuned to learn all about that. Happy early Thanksgiving to my American friends, and let's get right into it. Episode 3 starts with taking us right back to the modern day Lee Shaw and our characters May, Kentaro, and Kate. In the last episode, Shaw asked them if they wanted to go after their dad or be caught by Monarch. And obviously, they decided to go on the mission to find their dad and escape the Monarch placement facility. Here we got a real fun car escape scene that utilized Kurt Russell's acting skills to the utmost perfection, I think. I'm really enjoying the crazy old man dynamic here thrown into these modern young people's lives. It's just a good time to see these two different worlds collide. But in the end, the group manages to escape. Now let's go back to the 50s, to our characters Kay, Bill Rhonda, and a younger Lee Shaw. Here they reveal to General Puckett an impression of a giant footstep that was found in Indonesia. They don't know this at the time, but to us the viewers, it's clear that this is the footprint of Godzilla. They inform Puckett that this is worth looking into and that they can find Godzilla again. And with the army's help, they'd be able to get all the funding they needed to further the research on these new Muto creatures. So they get their funding, but they don't get the full truth, and we'll talk about that more here soon. Let's go back to our modern timeline crew. Here it's revealed that May managed to digitize and save the recordings that were on Rhonda's old Monarch cassettes. And we finally have the younger trio asking Shaw how he looks so good for being in his 90s. He tells them good genetics, but you can sense that the true reason in the lore is much more interesting, but we're just gonna have to wait and see on that. Let's get back to the Godzilla hunt now. Our OG Monarch crew are now in the Bikini Atoll Islands, where the last bit of evidence of Godzilla was located. This is where the government's full intentions are revealed. They don't want to study Godzilla, they want to kill him. Something this large can't be left alive according to them. But before that, we cut back to an emotional scene between May and Kentaro. Now I gotta say that episode 3 continued on where episode 1 and 2 left when it comes to characters and their emotions in this show. It's definitely a very big part in the story. After episode 1 and 2, it seems like most people are okay with it, but there's definitely a good bit of kaiju fans who are just wanting more monsters and less sappiness. Overall though, it really just goes down to what your interests are, and so it's hard to judge based off of that. If you like this sort of TV, you're gonna think it's great. If you don't like it, you're not gonna enjoy it, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad. It's really weird, I think. Tell me what you think. Anyway, back to the story. Shaw decides that since they don't need the cassettes anymore, it's best to throw them overboard to help stay discreet with their upcoming travels. And he decides to lead them to an old friend of his. But before that, they had to get through the border patrol, and we got a nice scene that shows how clever Shaw truly is. With the help of his undercover buddy, they are able to trick the Korean custom agents and get out of the country without alerting the higher authorities. Well, at least for a while. We quickly cut back to our Monarch friends discussing the whereabouts of Lee Shaw and Rhonda's files. Apparently word got out that Lee Shaw and the rest of the crew was able to break away from the custom agents, and so now back on their tails, Monarch's hunt can get back as scheduled. Speaking of the hunt, let's get back to Godzilla. Here, just like how it happened in our real world, we see high-ranking military officials posted on the beach awaiting Godzilla's arrival and the detonation of the atom bomb. The tension here is super heavy. Even though we, the viewers, know Godzilla survives the bomb, the build-up to the eventual blast was a little nerve-wracking for me. Just as it's looking like the G-Man is going to be a no-show, he finally arrives. And while this scene is very brief, I think it's super cool. Hearing Godzilla's sounds over the radio as he approached just gave me goosebumps. And being able to see the old scene from Godzilla 2014, you know, in the beginning of the movie where they detonate the bomb on top of Godzilla's face, being able to see that come to life, or at least the first time they tried bombing him come to life, was a real treat for MonsterVerse lore fans. Like I said, we know he doesn't die, but this is a powerful scene that the show just needs more of if we get a season 2. Back to our modern crew. They're on the plane heading to Alaska. They figured out one of their father's last locations, and it seems like they are getting closer to finding out what really happened to him. But before that, let's go back to the 50s. We see the after effects of the detonating of the bomb on top of Godzilla. Shaw explains that even though it was horrible, that now Monarch was going to be more than well funded for the future. It's a crappy situation, but I guess they got what they wanted. This was the beginning of Monarch. Cutting back to modern times, after a harrowing landing deep in Alaska's wilderness, the crew finds evidence of their father's plane. But it's not good evidence, its wreckage was thrown all over the local vicinity. They find the body of the dead pilot inside, but not their father, assuming that he must have survived. And this is confirmed when they come across a camp that was set up in the frozen wasteland. Now it's clear that it's been a long time since this place was occupied, but it gave them the proof they needed to know that their father was still alive after all. But this is where things turn for the worse. Lee's friend, after inspecting the wreckage, learns that the plane didn't crash. It was already landed when it was destroyed. They were trying to leave, not land, and we soon learned why. The new Mole Titan has come for their warmth. And after an intense scene that reminded me of Jurassic Park 3 with the Spinosaurus, we sadly saw the death of Shaw's friend to the Ice Beast. Before we see what happens next, the episode cuts to black. That's the end. So my final thoughts on episode 3 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I think my favorite thing about this episode was the tension that it had. From the very beginning with the 50s scenes, blowing up Godzilla or trying to the escaping of the Monarch facility and the customs agents, all the way up to the introduction of the Mole Titan. It was just a damn good time, I thought. And wasn't it finally cool to see some new shots of Godzilla? In the first 2 episodes, we just saw remade takes of the 2014 San Francisco bridge scene. And I personally loved seeing Godzilla come up to the bomb and actually inspect it before just blowing up on top of him. We got to see a good look at him here. But was it enough? Are fans really going to be okay with just 20 to 30 seconds of Godzilla in their episodes? I guess the show is called Monarch and not Godzilla, so you just gotta kinda think of him as a nice little bonus, I guess. But it's still gonna irk some people, I imagine. And make sure to stomp the subscribe button if you haven't already, because Al's making a more in-depth video on this scene. I'm sure you'll want to check that out. The car and plane scenes were really fun. I just can't get enough of Kurt Russell and his son Wyatt Russell. These guys literally steal the show every single time they're on the screen, and I wish they were in it more, to be honest. And of course, it's always nice to see a new Titan. And you're gonna see a lot more of this new Mole Titan in episode 4, so we hope to see you next time, when we give you our breakdown on that one. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you're from America, go out and enjoy Thanksgiving and be with your family. And to the rest of the people out there in the world, hey, you do the same. Thank you all for your time. This has been Jacob, and I'll see you in the next one.